Misty, what were your thoughts? How were you raised with in terms of understanding money and more specifically insurance? What was insurance for?
Oh man, honestly, like growing up, I never knew about life insurance. Life insurance was so far-fetched. It was that mentality of like life insurance is something that somebody gets if somebody dies. That was my understanding, the understanding of my family as well, because we didn't grow up knowing about life insurance. We grew up like if somebody passes away, the entire family pitches in to put that individual to rest. And that was my perspective too, growing up in that environment. So, you know, that's what I fell in love with. It's like the first presentation that somebody passes away, the entire family pitches in to put that individual to rest. My late 20s, you know, my daughter 3 years old, are here raising a family. Why don't more of us know about this? And that's what drew to me. It drew my attention wholeheartedly, because even when I presented it to my family, when we were you know, more involved in the business and we started talking to our family about it, most of them didn't know what life insurance was about either, or the bigger perspective of what life insurance can really do.
In your family's Puerto Rican background, right? Mm-hmm. What happens? How does the family help pay for a funeral? What goes down there? You got to go to Alvarez Funeral Home.
I was just about to say, Alvarez Funeral Home is just, I always say this all the time. It's you know, we wait around to pass out the little yellow envelopes. You know, back in the day, we didn't have GoFundMe, which is what we encounter now, which is everyone using GoFundMe. But back then was the little yellow envelopes. And when you go in, it's just like, well, thank you for coming. Here's a little envelope. And, you know, and hope for the best, that if somebody puts enough, or enough people put in, you know, a couple bucks, that we can kind of carve away at some of the costs.
You know, because I'm thinking about Humboldt Park. You know, that's the hood. For those of you that aren't from Chicago, it's not your Beverly Hills type neighborhood. Far from it. Matter of fact, if you watch History Channel, you watch Gangland. Right? they talk about a gang that's from Humboldt Park. Okay, we won't mention the gang, but you know, the neighborhood that you were raised in, the neighborhood that you're in, that you taught in. And I'm thinking there, right there on Paseo, right? Yep. Right? I can't think of one insurance office, maybe an Allstate, maybe a car insurance SR22. I'm thinking right there in Western, because my uncle had a auto body shop on Western in Lemoyne. Okay. I can't think, on that side it was Chi-Chi's Además tire repair, burrito spot, and then I can't think of one insurance.
Thinking about it now, no.
Can't even think of one. Mm-mm. So when it comes to educating the community, how did you feel when you're saying, okay, if I can be a blessing to other people, well, first I got to educate myself first. What were some of the things that you had to learn more about, so therefore you can find yourself in a position where you explain to others with passion and confidence?
I mean, the life insurance industry in itself, just really learning the values, the power, and the big difference that it can make in people's lives. You know, just researching the testimonies and comparing the differences between families that were covered with life insurance and how that changed the trajectory of their families, and the ones that didn't. Yeah. And seeing the way that they were left behind with just more of the struggle, the financial detriment, and whatnot. And it hit home, because we see it happen, you know, over and over and over in our own families, and we just, you know, that's the norm.
Right.
You know.
So you're both teachers. Anytime in that curriculum in the school system, did they ever teach about finances?
Not at all.
Even as a student, as a college student, even not like. I understand, like high school, home economics. I had an early childhood education class in high school, lugging around a fake baby for like 6 weeks. And it's like how I wish that they would have switched that around and allowed me to learn how to balance my checkbook, learn about taxes, learn about, you know, different things of finances versus, you know, how to raise a kid, you know, as a teenager.
Interesting. So let's talk about now you're seeing clients. You're seeing clientele. Obviously, you went from being a trainee in our system, now running your own agency, right? Which is a huge congrats, right? You know, you're qualifying for equity ownership, all these different things in 2021. So when you're looking at being a difference in your community, talk to us about specifically about the client that you just helped, right? The client that you just helped. What was some of their situations in terms of them educating themselves why to buy the policy, and then getting the policy underwritten and eventually approved?
Yeah, so I'll touch on that. So in regards to the client that we help, it was almost like I don't want to say accidental conversation, but it was one of those things like, hey, I need life insurance. Let's sit down and talk about options. So I sat down with this individual. It was actually his significant other. So I sat down with her, we ran numbers, and then in conversation, she's like, hey, I think he should get a policy too. So I was like, of course. So we went through the entire process, went through underwriting, and then, underwriting gave us some type of, issues back and forth because of the form of identification that he had.
Okay.
He, so moving forward.
Immigrant, foreign national,
no,
or?
I
think it was probably more the foreign national or.
Because he's a U.S. citizen, but it was just a specific identification, identification that I wasn't even familiar with. So going into underwriting, I just wrote a cover letter, right? We put a picture of the ID, and I was like, hey, listen, he's a U.S. citizen, everything cleared up. He's in good standing.
Social Security.
Yeah,
the whole
everything.
thing. Yeah.
Everything was in good standing.
Got it.
So then they came back and said, unfortunately, we won't be able to accept it. So I could have easily gone back to the client and said, hey, unfortunately, the insurance company is not accepting your ID.
Yeah.
So, good luck. But I fought for it. I said, hey, listen, there's no issues with his identification. This is just the type of identification he has. So we went back and forth like 4 or 5 times, and finally they approved it.
Wow. So you fought for your client.
Absolutely.
So before this, did they have any form of education about insurance? Did they have any insurance?
No, not at all. It was actually surprising to them that how we compare the old insurance versus the new life insurance. They're like, we didn't even know this existed. We just assumed that life insurance was good if you passed away or something that you got when you were older. So when I gave him the example of like, well, listen, just like, technology has done a huge transformation from like the iPhone and to the smartphone. I'm sorry, from the beeper to the smartphone. Right now, you're thinking of the beeper version of life insurance, and that was like mind blowing to them.
Which by the way, would still work today. If you have a pager, beep, beep, beep. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I got to call somebody. Which is still an effective form of communication today. It's not like it's not used. It's still used, but would you rather have a smartphone instead?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's how you educated them.
Absolutely.
To upgrade their understanding. It's just not for dying. Got it. So when you're seeing clients, are they also unaware of life insurance meaning more to them, not just for going to a funeral? Are you experiencing that?
100%. I think that I've personally, I've witnessed that where individuals are saying things like, I always get the oohs and ahs of like, wow, I did not know this. Personal friends of mine, they know that we're in the insurance industry, and they'll crack the jokes of like, oh, I'll get that when I'm old. I don't need that now. And so just the lack of understanding. And then, we'll say like, well, let me just show you exactly who we are, what we do, and if there's anything that we can help you with, then we'll move forward. And when we have that conversation with them, they're just like, wow, this is like mind blowing. I did not know that you can do this with life insurance or have this type of benefit with life insurance, and all these extra features with it. And so it's always a kind of like a heartfelt moment when you get those like the oohs and ahs, and when you see that light bulb turn on, and then you see that look on their face of like the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like, I wish I'd known this a long time ago. Yeah.
So when you sat down with them, you found out a policy, some coverage, and you found either a style, whether it be term or permanent, right? And what came about when it came to affordability?
Yeah, so that's a conversation that we actually just had recently with this client because we stayed within a certain budget because of what he could afford.
Sure.
His assumption was that, oh man, maybe I can't afford this, maybe it's too expensive. And I said, well, listen, my famous quote is, I'm not here to put a hole in your pocket. I'm here to educate you on what we can do for you. I'm here to properly get you proper coverage. So he just gave me a certain dollar amount. He said, I want to stay under $30 a month. I said, awesome, let's do it. So we were able to get him the coverage. The face amount was, the coverage amount was $100,000 for exactly like $27 and some change.
And he had zero beforehand?
Zero.
Even at his job?
I'm not sure. So his job was not offering life insurance, but he did have health insurance, but he didn't have life insurance.
But no life insurance. Only for medical expenses, but nothing in case you are not here or need to. Okay. So talk to us. What happened?
So he gets insured. It was exactly, policy was approved and issued May of 2019.
Okay.
Fast forward to 15 months later, he ends up getting a heart attack.
How old was he?
37.
Holy moly. Whoever thinks at 37 years old you get a heart attack.
37. And I mean, from my perspective, I'm 33.
Yeah,
so it's like we're in the same age range.
I'm 47 now. What are you talking about? You got all young bucks. Okay.
So it's like never in a million years, young guy,
Yeah.
you know, like never in a million years would he have imagined experiencing something like this, you know, at all, especially at his age.
Yeah.
So his girlfriend called me, you know, explained the situation, and she's like, hey, I remember you telling me about living benefits or something within his policy.
Yep.
Is that something that you can help us with? So, of course, I filed the claim right away, and we were able
Explain living benefits real quick.
Sure. So living benefits is basically if you suffer from a critical, chronic, or terminal illness, such as heart attack, cancer, stroke, you're able to accelerate up to 90% of your policy while you're alive, so you don't go through financial ruin that most people go through in a case of an unexpected event.
In your experience, did the bank offer this style of insurance?
Oh, never.
The typical Allstate, State Farm, Farmers, New York Life, Northwestern Mutual?
No.
It's only because your entrance into the insurance industry to educate yourself about what's offered in the marketplace and then find out the best companies for your community, were you able to find the right product that fit this type of living benefit style?
Absolutely.
Got it. Wow. Okay. So you said less than, so 27 bucks.
Yep, $27 and some change.
15 months later.
15 months later.
So hold on, let me do the math.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So I'm doing the math here. 27 times, is it 15 months?
15.
So they put a total of $405 towards the insurance company.
Yep.
He has a heart attack.
He has a heart attack. I filed a claim in a few weeks. It was obviously after all the medical underwriting and all that, an investigation that has to go through a claim.
Because it's less than 2 years.
Exactly.
Right.
So it has to go through a medical investigation. It all cleared, and we were able to deliver an $84,000 check.
And I know you had some reservation about posting online about what the power of life insurance does. But what was the response of your social media network when you said, "Hey, I provided how much? A 90?
$84,222 to be exact.
Check." What was the response to?
Oh my God! It was
so many. Like, you have no idea how many individuals reached out to me. People I didn't even know. I made my post public. I have people from Texas, Florida, like Georgia, Virginia. Tell me more about living benefits. I didn't even know life insurance can do that.
Wow.
So it's just the power. And the thing is, we're really good about posting about life insurance. But people are skeptical either way, right?
Yeah.
So when they see a testimony and a story like that, it's
real.
eye-opening. It's very real. And it made me really emotional because what if I didn't fight for him and I told him, hey, your ID, I'm sorry they're not accepting your ID, good luck. You have to fight for your client as if they were your own parents, because look at the position he's in now. He's able to properly recover, not have to worry about paying or depending on someone else to pay bills. It hits home because it's just very emotional.
He's not waiting for a COVID check,
No.
stimulus check, tax refund, unemployment, Section 8, any of that stuff, Department of Health and Human Services. He's not a burden of the government, okay? And so, because he took financial responsibility for himself, according to this death benefit, there's no income taxes that's paid on this $84,000?
Right, 84.
There's no income tax you pay on an $84,000 check, right? And so that's part of the big reasons why the life insurance industry has such favorable tax consequences, because if people take personal responsibility for themselves, the government says, if you're doing that, you're not a burden to us, knock yourself with some tax benefits, but you got to take care of yourself. So think about this real quick. In this person's family, how do they feel when they realize that their relative got an $84,000 check and he wasn't going to be a burden on them?
I'm sure it's like, talking to the girlfriend, she was just a mess. You can only imagine. They were going through so much. And she's like, you have no idea how blessed we feel. They thanked us so much for even having that conversation with her, for taking time. Because if it wasn't for that conversation, they would have never had coverage. And it's just about reaching out to everyone you know, because you never know what tomorrow holds for you.